What is the coolest thing you have done by accident? First bartending shift ever. Picked up a bottle of fairly expensive liquor, Patron Anejo. Slipped from my hand, held out my foot to slow the fall of the bottle to lessen the spread of shattered glass, and the bottle ended up resting on my outstretched foot completely unharmed. The one customer that was there, slow opening shift, saw the whole thing and freaked out, thinking I've been bartending for decades. I've never felt prouder of my reflexes. As a bartender myself, I have to say I'm impressed. I've stopped many bottles from breaking by holding out my foot, but never managed to get them to balance on top of my foot, lol. I was shit-faced rollin' last Saturday night out at the bars, and heard someone screaming inside this cookie joint at like 2 a.m. So I drunkenly ran in because from the window it looked like an old friend of mine, and I thought maybe something was wrong. I get inside and decide I want to just surprise him by running up and hugging the fucking shit out of him from behind. So I wrap my arms around him and scream, "Guess who, motherfucker?" All of a sudden, the few other people in this cookie shop run over and tackle us to the ground. I'm beyond fucked up. So I just lay there with my arms locked around my friend while people are on top of us. Someone then shouts, "I got his gun!" Yep, not only was this guy not my friend, but he was in fact robbing this place. I had just drunkenly stopped a fucking robbery. Apparently when I hugged him and shouted "Guess who?" he got so scared that he dropped his gun, allowing the other people to rush in and subdue him. That's how I'm going to stop all robberies from now on, with the line, "Guess who, motherfucker?" Normally I run in screaming, "I have to poop!" Throws pretty much everyone off guard, but your line is much cooler. Normally? How often are you stopping robberies? Enough to need a catchphrase. Not often enough to need a costume. Scored a goal in a soccer game. I'm lousy at sports. Always have been. But in 7th grade, I signed up for a lunch break soccer tournament. As expected, I was awful. All I could do was run around and get in the way of the opposing team. But one day, I was near the goal defended by the other team while nearly all the other players were heading back from the other end of the field. One of my teammates kicked the ball hard in my direction. Someone yelled my name. I saw the ball. I put up my hands to block it, remembered that hands aren't allowed in soccer, and ducked. The ball hit my head and bounced straight toward and into the goal, much to everyone's utter amazement. We won that game. I never played soccer again. That's what you're supposed to do when you peak. Retire, GJ. I stopped a lady at a crosswalk because her underwear was hanging out of the back of her skirt. Looked like a mistake in the bathroom, maybe. She stepped back off the crosswalk and about 2 seconds later a vehicle making a left turn at high speed smashed into parked cars right next to where she would have been standing. She would have been dead. That's amazing. Good thing you weren't too embarrassed to tell her about her skirt. A guy did that once to tell me my dress was stuck to my backpack and my underwear was hanging out, and I really appreciated it, and he didn't even also save my life. High school. Walked by 2 kids in the hallway. Kid 1 playfully threw a water bottle at Kid 2's back just as we passed each other. The bottle bounced off and I caught it with my hand without looking or even turning my head, and I just had a blank nonchalant expression as I did that. I handed it back to them with a poker face, but I was actually losing my mind and felt like fucking Spider-Man, lol. I did the same thing with pasta falling off a supermarket shelf and the guy next to me actually complimented it. I made my selection pretty quick and went to go smile somewhere else, haha. I had headphones and walking downtown a busy street. A kid almost hit me with his bike coming down the driveway, so I stopped it by the handlebars. The mom came running down the driveway and I was thinking, oh great, a Karen. After taking my headphones out, she thanked me in a panic for stopping her son from flying into the street as a car passed by. Never noticed it drive by. Jesus, that's amazing. You saved that kid. Waitressing in college, I was carrying a huge tray of dirty dishes from the dining room to the kitchen down a little hallway. I slipped on some water, went down hard on my butt but managed to keep the tray perfectly level and didn't spill a thing. Not a major achievement, but kept me from having to clean for the next half hour. My sister once caught a full beer glass someone accidentally knocked off the table. She did it in the most perfect swoosh and caught all the liquid that was already outside of the glass due to the momentum. She was the most surprised person at the table. We were playing a game of dodgeball. And since there were too much people on the benches, the coach decided to add a rule. Anyone who can throw the ball directly into the basketball goal, spelling, can immediately deliver everyone. I had one of the balls in hand when he said that, and the moment he signaled the game to continue, I threw the ball randomly, because I have the worst aim ever, and it somehow went straight into it. I never managed to pull it off a second time, but boy was I proud for the entirety of that day. Accidentally did a full 360 in my car while driving down an icy road in the winter. Nearly shat myself while watching the telephone pole getting closer, but I saved the spin and kept driving along like I meant to do it. Accidentally corrected a skid when I lost control of my car on an icy road. I hit my brakes too hard and noticed my car started to drift to the left. Instinctively, I let off the gas and turned my steering wheel left, into the drift, and my car went back to driving in a straight line. Threw a paper ball into the teacher's mug instead of the paper bin. I peaked that day in 7th grade. Bought someone a Coke without looking at it, and it had their name on it. I got a Coke from a soda machine, and it had my name on it. Such a cool feeling. One time I was driving a kid's bike in small circles, so I went a bit too tight on my circle, ended up horizontal with my bike, ending up with just the side of the pedal touching the ground, did a full 360 turn, then popped back up like it was some 1000 difficulty BMX move or Somesh #T. I was a lifeguard on the ocean. I was having a pretty shit day, and on top of it my lunch was postponed an hour. I headed up the beach to the nearest hotel to eat. As I was leaving the restaurant I heard a crowd of people screaming near the pool. As I came down the stairs towards, I saw a young child floating face down in the water. I immediately pulled the kid out and gave rescue breathing until the EMT could arrive. The next day the parents walked down to my stand to thank me. They were originally told by their doctors they couldn't have children, but a few years later were blessed with this young boy, their only child. The mother told me I was their guardian angel that day. I'm not a very religious person, but this story still gives me goosebumps knowing that I was the right person in the right place at the right time for that boy. I started off angry about my lunchtime change, but this was the outcome. Talked to 6 police officers on acid. I forgot I'd taken acid, and they seemed friendly, so I approached them and asked them if I could really only get to the train station using the escalator, cause my dog hates those. One of the officers started asking me questions about the dog, breed, age, etc. But it was my friend's dog and I'm not a big dog person, so I didn't know. Thankfully that wasn't at all suspicious to them, and they explained the obvious to me, that it wasn't possible to get to the station without the escalator. Duh. When the dog and I got to the top of the stairs, it finally dawned on me that I just talked to a crap ton of officers on acid, voluntarily. And I felt badass and also open-minded as I'm not from a police-friendly community. I was also very happy that the police officers had been so nice to me and that I learned something about the dog. Told my parents I would take the dog I picked up on the side of the road to the shelter after the 3-day weekend. I think it was Labor Day. Forgot to take her on the morning they opened back up, and somehow she accidentally wound up living with us for 10 amazing years until she passed. Survived long enough to retire and collect a pension. When I was a kid, my cousins and I were outside and they were playing catch with a football. I was sitting on a chair not really paying attention, stretched out my arm to stretch, and at the same time, my cousin missed the ball when it came at him. I stretched out my arm and next thing I know I've caught it perfectly without even looking. With my non-dominant hand, might I add. I got angry, so I crumpled up a receipt and threw it at the wall. It bounced off and landed in a vase on the counter. I stopped in my tracks and thought, well, I can't be mad after witnessing that. I was taking a tour of one of the U.S. government buildings. I believe the Capitol, but I'm not sure, during a school trip. During the tour, the guide showed us a chandelier and asked if anyone knew how much it was worth. Flippantly, I answered something like 4.7 million, like I already knew the answer. Turns out, it was the correct answer, the tour guide said. Sounds like someone's been doing his research. None of my friends believed me when I told them that I hadn't already known the answer. I believed me though. My husband and I were driving by a small college, and he noted a sign advertising an upcoming conference on extrasensory perception. I responded, yes, and you don't even have to pre-register. They already know you're coming, my first, last, and only perfect funny. I was making eggs for breakfast one morning. I cracked the first egg and threw the shell over my shoulder into the sink. I did this 3 more times and each shell landed directly in the previous shell, forming a 4-egg-shell tower. Shit was nuts. What is the coolest thing you have done by accident? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.